night, there's a moaning in mine. I feel like I could fly.
Hello, and welcome to episode 15
of Mo Money,
the investing show for millennials by millennial, where we educate, entertain, and empower a new generation of investors. I am, of course, the host of this wonderful show, the one and only MC Mo. Hope you all had a wonderful Cinco de Mayo. Let's get down to this week's
Mo Money Market Update.
Market made a roughly 1% move downwards this week with continuing fear of a global slowdown. And many significant Wall Street investors feel that this bull market is beginning to lose a bit of steam. To add to the gloom of the market, the recent oil rally has also appeared to have lost some of its traction as well. After hitting a peak of $48 a barrel within the last week, it has moved lower. The continuing fear and hints of a global glut continue to remain on traders' minds. This week was also the week of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway's Investors Extravaganza in the Ira Sohn Conference. The dynamic duo of Buffett and Unger were their usually cheery grandpa self in the media, talking about how cheery things were in the world of Berkshire Hathaway, their investments are doing well, and the ones that aren't doing well, they're not worried about it. Questions about negative interest, monetary policy, and oil were also discussed equally as much at the Ira Sohn Conference. Ira Sohn Conference is an annual charity conference where the best and the brightest minds on Wall Street come to discuss investment strategies in current situations within the market. Famed investor Stanley Druckenmiller made headlines with his continued prediction of doom for the markets. David Einhorn of Greenlight Capital expressed concerns in China, and famed short seller Jim Chanos took shots at Elon Musk and Tesla, as well as reiterating his short position in Valiant Pharmaceuticals, which was an echo of Charlie Munger's sentiment, which he called the company a sewer and immoral. Now, last week, I had mentioned that Valiant Pharmaceutical had faced a grueling tongue lashing from the U.S. Senate Commission on drug prices. And coincidentally, I had dedicated last week's episode to capitalism, the greatest economic system man has ever created, which brings us to this week's topic, the monopoly of Big Pharma. Raising prices on pharmaceutical drugs is not a new phenomenon. It's an epidemic that has plagued the United States' decrepit healthcare system for years, and it certainly was not invented by this man, Martin Shkreli, only a year ago. Shkreli became a name known overnight due to his egregious price hike on Daraprim, a 60-year-old AIDS medication which he raised from $13.50 a pill all the way to $750 a pill overnight. 5,000% increase. Shkreli is what most people refer to as a smug-faced bastard, a douchebag, or as he is most affectionately known as the most hated man in America. Unlike the other dozens of pharmaceutical companies who raise drug prices or engage in price gouging, as it is called, Shkreli, or Pharma Bro, was actually able to articulate an intelligent response for his hype. I'll paraphrase his response, but what he said was something around this. The drug that he bought had been around for 60 years, and nobody in that time had attempted to reformulate it. He saw value, bought the drug from a failing company that was losing money, jacked up the price to first stop his investment from losing money. Second, to raise capital from the increase to put towards research and development of a new and better drug. And third, of course, to make a profit for himself. He said they were already giving away 50% of the drug for $1 each. Let's put this all into perspective. 60 fucking years old. Does anyone use anything from 6 years ago? I'm not using a TV. I'm not driving a car from 60 years ago. Almost every type of medicine out there has gotten better, has been modernized, except for this one. And he decides to do something about that, for which he is vilified. When Valiant executives and Ackman were asked by the Senate, they could explain the reasoning behind their price gouging. Nothing. Silence. Crickets. They had no rationale besides making fucking money. Now, I'm not here to advocate for Mr. Shkreli. I'm not his cheerleader. And he also attempted to free Bobby Shmurda from prison, so he's eternally fucking cool in my book. But first, let's get down to how this monopolizing of pharmaceutical drugs is allowed to take place. Let me first start off by saying that I am nowhere near an expert in the field of pharmaceuticals. I know nothing about infectious diseases and all that, but I do understand economics. Now, capitalism is great, like I said, because it encourages competition. Competition is in turn good for the consumers, and it creates competitive pricing. If Coca-Cola wants to start gouging the prices on their beverages from $2 a bottle all the way to $200 a bottle, you have a choice of many other beverages to start drinking that are reasonably priced. Most likely you would just start buying Pepsi because you think it tastes the same. And if you think that, then you are the fucking worst. Fuck Pepsi. That shit tastes like old deflated Coke. My taste buds know the goddamn difference. I could pass that Pepsi challenge 10 out of 10 10 times. Even I would stop drinking Coca-Cola if they did that. Probably just drink more beer and my life would go on. I'd be perfectly fine, if not more healthy than before for having cut my sugary beverage habits. That's not the case in the pharmaceutical industry. You don't have a consumer choice to stop using XY Pharma's drug because you need that shit to fucking live. It's not an addiction, it's worse. It's a fucking I need this shit to live situation. I'm sick, I need the drug or I will literally die. That's what makes the pharmaceutical industry different than any other. They know the customers can't decide to just stop using their product. Now, like I said, competition is what causes competitive pricing in markets. But in the pharma industry, there is almost zero competition for the big players. The way that happens is the patent on drugs. These patents on drugs can range anywhere from 5 to 20 years. That means you have a maximum of almost 20 years of monopoly to set prices to whatever fucking price you want until the patent expires. And then generic drugs will be able to enter the market, significantly undercutting you and your prices. By then, you already have some new thing in the pipeline to make up for those profits. As if it could get any worse, throw in the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, who receives hundreds of millions of dollars of donations from Big Pharma each year. Through these donations, the FDA fast tracks approval for their drugs and creates high barrier walls for small competitors looking to get their generic drugs approved once the patents expire. Reports saying these backlogs of approval can sometimes take over a year to finally go through, extending the existing company's monopoly. And therein lies the problem. Valeant Pharmaceuticals has been by far the worst offender of price gouging, rivaled by other companies like Pfizer, Eli Lilly, and Gilead. Pfizer raised prices on over 100 drugs this year alone. Eli Lilly raised one of its drugs 325%. Gilead charges $1,000 for a Hep C drug that one can purchase in other countries for under $100. Valeant was the greediest of them all. Valeant did not give a fuck about research and development. Their strategy was simple. Buy small companies for their drugs, gouge the prices to whatever they wanted. They did this time and time again, and nobody stopped it. The CEO, Mike Pearson, who had zero pharma background, he worked for McKinsey previously, prestigious consulting firm. He was awarded with large bonuses for making the company such large profits, so he saw no reason to stop what they were doing. They are a poster child for big pharma greed and corruption. These companies had no need to gouge prices because, unlike smaller companies, Shkreli's for instance, they had the capital for research and development. They chose not to use it. They chose to buy other companies, jack up the prices on their drugs. Valeant had the lowest research and development spending of any of the big pharma companies in the industry. So ask yourself, why doesn't anyone do anything about this? Well, that's because pretty much before Shkreli, nobody gave a fuck. It wasn't on the news. Nobody knew it was happening. Add that to the fact that pharmaceuticals have been paying off government officials for decades, and you'll get exactly what we have now. A bunch of corrupt, paid off, ain't gonna say a fucking word politicians. Hillary Clinton was actually a big advocate for universal healthcare in the early 90s, and we would have had it had Big Pharma not run an incredible smear campaign. I mean, this shit was excellent. I gotta give props where props are due, and it only took one word to scare the shit out of people and send them running the other way. Socialism. People shit their fucking pants and wanted Hillary dead. Add that to the fact they paid Hillary to keep her FLOTUS mouth fucking shut. The party in Big Pharma continued. A case that was made eloquently by Michael Moore in his 2007 documentary Sicko, which raised concern about the healthcare system, but nothing like what Martin Shkreli was able to accomplish almost overnight. Now, within the recent year, the money medicine had worn off on Hillary, and she is back to lambasting the pharmaceutical companies. Her tweet, which I've mentioned in the past, vowing to stop the price gouging, rocked the healthcare sector of the stock market, and it hasn't recovered much since then, and it still lies pretty dormant until after the election, most likely. Even Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has been critical of Big Pharma, saying the party is over. We will force you to have to negotiate prices. Pretty left or center view from the extreme right candidate. Well, how do we stop this? Like I said, I'm by no means an expert in the field, but the simplest explanation to me is capitalism. We could first remove the ban on foreign pharmaceuticals within the country, thus creating competition. We have to hit Big Pharma and the FDA with the old Ronald Reagan treatment. Big Pharma, tear down this wall. Wall being the high barriers to entry that restrict competition. If we allowed for more competition, there would be no need for government intervention because the markets would price themselves out competitively. But I am not against socialized healthcare. I feel it is the government's job to protect its citizens and most importantly, ensure life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness unburdened by healthcare debt. I'm not going to get into that discussion now. Bottom line is this. Good or bad, we have to thank Martin Shkreli in a way for raising this terrible issue to the surface, giving it the spotlight that it deserves. It's good the government is stepping up to condemn these companies. Soon, although highly unlikely, they may actually start doing something about it. Healthcare companies are not bad. The people running running them can be. These companies save lives, and for that reason should be held to the highest standards of regulations of any industry. It is important for us as citizens to care and let our voices be heard. If this issue bothers you, call your congressman, call a representative, tweet them if you want. Just let them know that you care about this. Tell them that the pharma party is over, okay? Tell them to make capitalism great again. Do what you have to. Health is a silly thing to waste. We must not allow these corporations to monopolize and hold our citizens hostage and extort them for their money. Monopoly is only fun when it's a board game, and even then it's only fun for like 30 fucking minutes, and everyone just gets all fucking aggravated and pissed off. As always, thank you so much for watching. You know we will be here every Friday with a new episode just for you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter.
Mo Money, signing out.